Hello everyone, welcome back to Garden Fever. Wanted to do a different episode today. I wanted to do a garden tour. We're reaching the end of our growing season. It's September now. Some plants will make it to, some of the more cold hardy ones will make it till October, but a lot of them will start to die out the end of September. So we're kind of reaching the end of our season. So I thought I'd do a quick garden tour, kind of show off what I did, some of my successes, some of my fails, and just kind of show off the plants that I managed to grow this year. With that, we'll get started. Right here we got our raspberries. They're kind of spent. Like I said, we're at the end of our season, so I don't think I'm going to get any more. But I got this whole section. They're very invasive. I've done some measures to try and keep them contained, and as you can see, I still get these suckers popping out everywhere. So this fall we've got some cleanup work to do to prepare for next season. For those of you who didn't see my rotating my garden video I did, next year I'm going to be tilling, and we're going to be changing up kind of where we keep everything growing. Perennials as an exception, obviously, but a lot of our annual plants we're going to rotate. So anyway, here's my raspberries. And then here's my kale and cabbages. This is where I struggled the most. I had an aphid outbreak, some grasshopper problems. But they're nothing to brag about. This one I'll probably yank out right here. It just didn't do very well. We are reaching colder months, so we're starting to see some growth. This one next to it's really starting to show signs of recovery. But we did struggle here quite a bit, so got a few cabbages, and I'll probably yank some of these out. Let's scoot over here, and I'm not sure why that's split and looks like it was bit open. Maybe there's a pest that I'm unaware of. So if you guys have any ideas, please leave a comment in the comment section. But we'll go around this way. I had a lot of volunteer tomato plants pop up, and I just let them go, but we are getting some fruit, so I'm going to let them just kind of go. They are draping across the path, so I'll probably trim this up some, see if we can't get a few tomatoes. This one was a volunteer as well that popped up, and I just let them go. For those of you who know me, I don't like to grow more plants than what my family can eat. There's oftentimes a lot of excess. And so I only grow however, a certain amount for my family. I don't overgrow. But anyway, these are pepper plants, and it's looking like habanero. If you sneak in here, they're kind of shaded out back here, so they've bushed out quite a bit, but they're not flowering a ton right here. It's hard to see because my tomato plants are so overgrown, but I got oregano right here. And they're a great companion plant next to tomatoes. So, got some onions right here that I'm transplanting. My onions suffered major damage this year, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, here's my tomato plants. And for those of you, it's kind of hard to see, but they're about 6 feet tall, and I actually trimmed them all on the top. We're gonna have to Tarantino that video, because that tip of the month ain't gonna be released until the middle of September. But we've already got major growth, about a foot of growth, a little bit of yellowing here, but we're starting to get all of our tomatoes, and they're starting to ripen. So by the end of this month, I'm thinking that we're gonna be swimming in tomatoes. I grow indeterminate types of tomatoes, so they tend to keep growing. However, these blooms are not going to do us much good as we get into the fall. So right here's a lavender. I have balled this out and trimmed this twice this year, and it has grown very well. Here's my pepper plants. I have a wide variety. I've got habaneros, which might be kind of hard to see right here, but because they're just starting to turn. And these are the Mexibels. I've got some serranos. This is the scorpion pepper. And I don't know if you can see here, but I've got a ton of those. There's no way I'm going to be able to eat those. But I use peppers for more than just food. I make a habanero jelly. I love peppers. Peppers are one of my favorites to grow. Check this out. Let's see if we can get a good view here. But oh, I'm excited. Good stuff coming. Anyway, I also make a pest deterrent, and we'll get into that later too. I'm not doing a video on how I do all of this stuff, but another lavender. And I'm starting to be overgrown with my squash and zucchini and watermelon. As you can see, I got a vine, but there's a fruit starting right there. So I'm just going to let it grow. Lavender, and then this is a horseradish. They're really tough, so all three of those kind of packed into each other ain't gonna kill each other. So we're just gonna let them go. It's too late in the season to care, and I'll be mulching all of this in here in another month or two, and we'll be preparing our bed for winter, so I'm not going to stress about it. Here's a comfrey, and with comfrey I use as a chop and drop, and I have done that 3 times with chicken manure, and this will probably be the 4th time, and then I'll probably be done. I got all kinds of zucchinis and stuff growing. But they're about spent too. We're reaching the end of those too. It's starting to cool off a little bit here. My chives, these are my regular chives, and they are gone to flower, and I'm going to let that happen because I want to reseed for next year. Same with my basil, that has gone to seed. It's looking pretty good. Cherry tomatoes is what my family eats the most. We eat a ton of cherry tomatoes, so they're all picked through and about spent. I got a chufa nut popping up right here, and I rotate my crops in my containers too. I didn't grow anything here. I've been mulching and just adding in debris and compost and stuff. I'll do more with this next year. Same with this bed, so I kind of got this all set up. But I did have a parsley grow, and it came up on its own. It was a volunteer, so I just let it happen. Here is some spent purslane, which I have picked and eaten and just destroyed. So it's reaching the end of its growing season too and going to seed, with a purple basil in the middle. Pretty, huh? So this is the garlic chives, which I have now let go to seed too, because I'm trying to get those to flourish, because I eat those the most. I love garlic chives. It's one of my favorite herbs, one of my favorite flavoring herbs. And more cherry tomatoes. Like I said before, I let my pots take a break every once in a while. I transplanted this garden sage to this corner, so it's a little stunned, but they're pretty hardy and tough, so I imagine next year we'll get a nice bush, but it looks pretty weak this year. And winter squash, we've got watermelon starting, not to mention, like I said, tons of zucchinis, and but these leaves have some powdery mildew, and it's reaching the end. It's time to harvest, so we'll probably do that today. After I do this video, I'll probably tear all that out, harvest what I'm going to, and start preparing the soil for winter. Here's my a bunch of bunching onions. They've been completely hammered by my kids. I was able to put up this fence, so towards the end of the growing season, so I think it saved them pretty much. They were getting beat up pretty bad. Got some cute flowers in here too, on both sides of this, just to give you an idea. Another row tomato, more zucchini. I got salvia right there to kind of attract bees. It's a little overcrowded. I think we're overgrown on some of this stuff, but like I said, end of the season, so I'm not going to stress. Had some decorative stuff that the greenhouse was giving away, so I threw them in here just to see what they do. I don't think much is going to happen. I mean, we got a little bit of growth, but not a ton. I even have a spinach popping up in between. But here's mustard chard. This is the 2nd year I've had it. It grew to be about 4 or 5 feet tall and then went to seed. So I chopped it all the way down to the base, and then now that it's hitting cold weather again, we're starting to get some. I thought we were done. Along with the powdery mildew, I was lazy and started to water on top, and so I'm getting some powdery mildew, but I'm also getting this. See? So every time I water on top, I always regret it. The leaves should look like this, but I get a little bit of this when I set a lot of water on the top. So just FYI, it is better to water at the base if you can. Here's a back shot of my tomatoes. I only have 2 actual tomato plants that I planted with cutting tomatoes, but cherry tomatoes I grow a lot of, so as you can see. And we eat them. We eat a ton. My goji berries are spent. I've gotten tons of seeds, but they're starting to decline going into winter. I got French sorrel, very lemony, or no, this is not French sorrel. This is arugula. This has a kind of a bitter taste, but a great nutty aftertaste. So that's one reason why I like it, because it tastes like peanuts almost. This is French sorrel. This has a lemony taste to it. Both are a little bitter, but so I usually cook those with things, not just eat them plain. Here's my purslane bed. Another purslane. I'm going to make this my main purslane here in the future, just so we know. And then here's my bunching onions. I'll leave that link in the description too. I did a video on that this year. But these are the green onions I seeded last fall that came up this spring, have been ready to harvest, and are now able to go to seed now and lay seeds for this fall. So that's where I've been harvesting from, trying to build a kind of a border. My kids just destroyed them this year. So anyway, I have many other plants. This is the one I want to kind of verbalize, this bed. This is kind of like my public bed, if you will. I have a couple other plants growing around that I'll just take shots of and show you as we go. But that kind of covers this bed, what we were able to do in this bed. Next year, each year gets a little bit better and a little bit better, so I'm excited. But and it's always sad to see the season end, but I'll give you some shots of some of the other things I got lying around, and we'll go from there. And then I got a rhubarb here, and I got one growing here, but it's not doing as well because it's its first year and it's not established, so it's kind of struggling a little bit. But I think next spring it'll do a lot better. But this one's way more established and doing much better. During the summer, the leaves kind of die down, and then I yank them. Those are kind of some of the debris that you see over there. But and then as it's cooling off now, I'm starting to get more sets of leaves, and I just let them go. It's late in the season, so I think I'm just going to let them go, maybe eat a few, and then let it winterize. I've got a dandelion that I've kind of let go and just don't care about, but you can eat dandelions. They're an edible weed. Link in the description. I got a pepper plant, and then another pepper plant. I think they're serrano peppers, and then a third one back here. This is a gopher's bane, and it just exploded. I'm surprised it's in my cinder block garden. I haven't grown a whole lot in here. I've had some weird cocoons that have popped up that I've got. I'll leave a link in the description on that video too. That was kind of weird. So anyway, right here I've got peppermint, and then here I've got a mixture of garlic over here, kind of more closer here. It's a little overgrown, and Egyptian walking onions. And I got a rosemary under there that's all kind of buried from my sunchokes, which are just exploding. So it's getting to be fall now. They've spent their flowers, so I'll probably chop and drop that back onto the soil and harvest some, or just leave in the soil the tuber that they grow that is edible. And I'll be back.